On this episode, we get started on the outdoor garden, complete with the Brahman pen, a wooden walkway leading to our resident chickens, and upgrades to the building exterior, so stay tuned. Alright, we're going to just jump right into it today. So first off, I wanted to kind of fill up the empty space that's on the side wall of the building, and I thought a fan could work really well there, but I didn't want it just to sit out like on the wall because it can kind of stick out a little bit. So what I decided to do was try to sit it inside a little bit, and how I did that was you burn the wall and then I wasn't able to place the fan up high enough on top of the back of those consoles. So what I did instead was I placed some of the wooden planks, and then I placed the fan, which worked out really well actually, because once you fix the wall, the planks don't show, which is really cool, because the brick walls are like really thick, and so you can kind of hide a lot of stuff in there. I also added in some conduits to make it look like it's kind of hooked up and connected, and there's like other stuff kind of going on there. I've done that in some other builds too, especially on my solar punk build, if you want to check that out. But this is something I've been kind of meaning to do for a little while, but I'm glad I had time to kind of figure it out today and just kind of put it together. All right, next up is the fence. So ultimately I didn't really want to do a full wraparound initially, but in the end I actually decided that's probably best. So what I ended up doing was I just kind of followed the contour of the path and then around, the rocky side as well. I'm using the barbed wire fence here just because it kind of made this most sense to me. I thought about mixing it up with the paddock fence as well, and I might do that actually later since they're exact same size. But for now, I'm using a standard half-size barbed wire to kind of meander around and fill it up. I'm not going to show you the entire thing that I did, but hopefully you get the sense of it when you see it completed. You may notice that I'm making the fence not particularly straight, and that's definitely on purpose. I'm kind of tilting them a little bit each time just so that it looks imperfect, because that's kind of what it would be like, I think. Here you can kind of see the general shape I came up with before kind of changing it to align with the building. And so that's kind of the general shape I was going for, but ultimately I decided to kind of make it connect with the building because I thought that was a little bit better visually. So all right, so as I was building the fence, I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea to build a little lean-to for a Brahman, and so that's what I ended up doing. The foundation really easily snapped to a fence piece, and I was able to kind of put up a half wall and then a roof with it. And so using a stair post blueprint, I was able to kind of easily make it look supported, and I think it actually turned out really well. If you're unfamiliar with the stair post blueprint, all you do is snap a post to a foundation, put another post on top, and then use a floor decor item directly beneath it, and then blueprint all three items, and you're good to go. Then you can really place the stair column anywhere. I use it all the time for a bunch of different stuff. The Brahman pen may not place directly underneath the roof just because low roofs tend to kind of have that issue. So all you need to do is burn the roof and you should be able to place it fairly easily. I did the exact same thing for this fence I wanted to place behind the lean-to as well. Alright, after about an hour or so of adjusting the fence, I decided it was time to kind of start decorating, or kind of moving things around to where I want them. So I started with the butterfly sanctuary, and I'm just going to merge that down into one of these rocks to kind of mix it up a little bit for no other particular reason. And this is going to kind of sit back by the building, so it's kind of where I want it to go right now. And the reason I'm merging it down into a rock is so that it kind of sits down lower, because the way that it's the way that it sits against the building right now is it's a little floaty on one side. So I'm merging it down into the rock so that I can kind of hide that it's floating a little bit, if that makes sense. I know I want to use a couple of these planters, and most likely I want to kind of nestle them up against the outside fence. But that means I'm going to have to move the Brahman gate down just a little bit so that the planter isn't interfering with being able to open and close the gate. So now that I know kind of where all the big stuff is going to go, like the planters and all that kind of stuff, I want to start kind of detailing. And so first off, I'm going to create this little pathway using some wooden chairs. And it's going to kind of look like the pathway that I built in my recent cemetery build. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of those playing cards, and I'm going to merge a wooden bench down onto those playing cards. If you do it right, the bench will sit right on top of the playing card, and you can merge it down. And it's got such a small footprint that you can barely tell that it's there. And more often than not, it'll be able to hide underneath the ground too. So it's a great way to kind of hide some of the merging. All right, I'm not going to show you everyone, but I just wanted to give you a sense of kind of like what I was doing. Notice that I offset them a little bit each time, because something like this isn't supposed to be perfectly straight. So keep that in mind. I wasn't entirely happy with the placement of the fermenters, so I merged that down into a rock, and I'm going to move it over by the Brahman pen because I feel like that's, at least visually, a better spot. Alright, next up, I want to give our little feathered friends some straw to lay in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge the chicken coop down onto a hay bale until you can kind of just see the hay poking out. And then what I'm going to do is merge the hay bale down onto a playing card so that I can place it down on the ground. And we did get a few naming suggestions for these chickens from last episode, so thank you all for sending in your suggestions. I think we're going to go with Beelzebub for the one on the left, and Peri Peri for the one on the right. I think those are really cool, awesome names. Thank you all for suggesting them. I really appreciate it. Alright, I need to fill up the space that was left by the fermenter over by the building, so I'm just going to merge down some hay bales onto a rug so that they sit down onto the ground really well, and finish it off with a bramble. And for whatever reason, I changed my mind on the fermenter again, so I'm going to move it back over by the chicken coop. Alright, next up is the planters, and I'm going to show you this in its entirety basically. Anytime I'm typically merging a bunch of items together, what I do is I'll place them all first to kind of get a sense of where I want them all. But it also gives me a great idea of the order I need to merge them all down in, because each one is a different height, and so as I'm merging down, I need to make sure that I'm merging the correct items at the right time so that it all kind of flows evenly down. The main idea for the planters is basically just fill it with a bunch of plants and hope that it all kind of looks good. And I think they do. But I mean, we're kind of limited in the amount of plants we have, and so I don't want them to look samey. So I'm kind of trying to mix it up between the two. So hopefully that kind of comes across. But ultimately, this is basically for Julie. She's going to be, doing her magic with these. These are kind of like her little babies, her flowers that she's, caretaking, all that kind of stuff. So really that's the idea. On the second planner, I kind of realized I goofed up on the height a little bit. So all you need to do is just have your cat module handy, go over, place it on the cat module, and it'll lift up everything just a little bit. And then just go back to the pressure plate and adjust as you need. It's super simple. All right, next I'm merging a hay bale down onto a playing card again because I want to give our little Brahmin friend a little bit of extra hay in his pen. So that's what I'm doing. But there's going to be a couple things in the way that I realize. And so I'm going to have to move the bramble out of the way and probably destroy the roof as well, which is probably preventing this from placing. Ultimately, if you have something that just isn't placing because of other stuff around it, basically just burn everything and you should be good to go. When placing my crops, I typically put them all together, tomatoes with tomatoes, corn with corn, etc. But with tomatoes especially, I always make sure to swap versions, and also I rotate them around as well, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm going to merge this Vault-Tec tree down onto another playing card and try to find a good place for it. I usually like using this, even though it's a little bit too like decorated, but I think it can work really well in this camp. I'm going to do the same thing with this planter, and I'm going to find a really cool spot for it, probably near the tree that I just placed. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to place it over by the stairs too, because I think adding a little bit of greenery around never hurts. And I think in this case, we have a lot of rocks and we have a lot of kind of stuff sticking out. I think it would actually make a lot of sense for some ferns and stuff to kind of be poking out of the ground. All right, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, seeing my process, building the garden, doing all the merging, all that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. It really helps the channel, and I always appreciate it. So thanks again for watching. I'll catch you next time.